Hey everyone, today I wanted to go over some leaked information we got for Monster Hunter Rise 2.0 update on the Nintendo Switch. Now we all know that on April 27th, or if you're watching this today, they would be tomorrow, there's going to be a big live stream event from Capcom revealing all the details for the big 2.0 update that's going to give us information on new monsters, perhaps new mechanics, new armors, and all that kind of stuff that we're all expecting to see and that we've been eagerly awaiting for Capcom to put out for this game, which for some time now has definitely been needing a little bit of a boost since we're all kind of just running Dragon at this point, just running Charm Quest over and over to get that specific God Charm. To alleviate that, Capcom has been promoting this big 2.0 update for the end of the month in April, and tomorrow it's going to finally be it. So we now have some information on a somewhat trusted leaker that I've covered in the past when I made some on my previous leaks video, where he's basically now saying exactly what are we going to be able to see on just the entire event in general, and I wanted to quickly go over it as best as possible. I don't want to drag this out too long, but I definitely want to hit up on all of the points that he covers just so we can have some concept as to what to expect. I will be making sure that the thumbnail does not leak any of the monsters, although if you have been following the leaks, you already know what monsters to expect. A lot of people got really pissy with me last time when I talked about leaks and I put the monsters in the thumbnail, so I'm going to try to avoid that this time. But other than that, let's get right into it because there's a lot to cover. And of course, just for context, there will be a link in the video description if you do want to look this up for yourself. So starting with Monster Hunter Stories 2, they're basically just talking about the improved battle system, and that's about it. You're going to be able to know about a couple of more new monsters that they're going to be showing off, but that's basically it. Nothing necessarily revelatory. I do know that in the official Twitter post that they made when they talked about the 2.0 update, specifically when it comes to Monster Hunter Stories 2, they did talk about they're going to show up the mechanics for combat. And we do know, based on some of the other leaks for that game specifically, which I talked about before, we already know the entire game's roster for that specific title, that there are some more intricate mechanics for that game, but I actually haven't been able to go through all the details when it comes to that. I am going to make a video about that after this, but you know, Stories 2 in general is not my big forte, so I apologize for that. But we're basically going to be able to see more monsters when it comes to that, and the improved battle system, which, keep in mind, it is turn-based combat. It is not like action like Monster Hunter, like traditional Monster Hunter, so do keep that in mind. Quickly shifting over to Monster Hunter Rise, which is probably the reason why you're interested in this, we do know for sure that Chameleos and Apex Rathalos are going to be, you know, part of this event, part of this trailer. That's not a big surprise. What we didn't necessarily know is which of the monsters that we know are part of the leaks that are going to be part of the 2.0, 3.0, and perhaps even 4.0 update. Which ones of those are going to be included? And going forward, we now know that Kushala Daora, Teostra, and Apex Diablos are going to be part of this specific package alongside Chameleos and Apex Rathalos. Now, the interesting part, I guess, is that Kushala Daora and Teostra are part of Monster Hunter 3 Elders group, where, you know, they were basically, I believe they were introduced in that game. So all of them kind of being brought back together into just one big package. I'm pretty sure they're probably going to make a big deal out of that. A lot of like nostalgia and rekindling of those Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate fans that are basically, you know, are still hanging on to the idea of this game still being similar to what it once was. But yeah, they're basically just bringing back Kushala Daora, and Teostra, which I should specifically clarify that I spoke about in the previous leaks, where they are going to bring back monsters from Monster Hunter World. But I originally thought, and it was originally back in the, like, I want to say like 4 months ago or so, when people were suggesting that perhaps that meant that some of the newer monsters from Monster Hunter World, the ones that were introduced, would be the ones that we see as DLC for Monster Hunter Rise. But now it seems like no, it's actually perhaps just the older monsters that were brought back from the old game into the engine of Monster Hunter World. Now they're actually kind of being brought back into Monster Hunter Rise with those new mechanics, with those new moves, with those new, you know, visuals and all of that. So it's interesting that old monsters were made new and now they're kind of being made retro again. But it is what it is. New monsters is new monsters. So people are going to be able to have a couple of Elder Dragons and Elder Monsters to be able to fight, so that's definitely cool. The one that took me by surprise is Apex Diablos. I wasn't expecting that one. I did hear about it in the leaks a while back, but it's interesting to see it now. That's going to be a thing. I did talk about Apex Diablo perhaps being shown in one of the trailers a while back when he looked a little bit more reddish than usual when they showed off a Diablos and the Rampage. I don't know what this one's actually going to look like. Perhaps it's just a different color palette like Mitsuzune and the Rathalos and all of that with a couple of added flares, but we'll have to wait and see. But Apex Diablos, cool being added. Rathalos, it is what it is. Chameleos is the interesting one, but we knew about that already. And like I said, Kushala Daora and Teostra were expected. We knew about them being part of this group of leaks from a while back, but it's now cool that we know that they're going to be part of this big 2.0 update. So moving on from the monsters, we also know that they're going to be adding new quests. That's not necessarily a big surprise, but they do specifically mention in the leak that like a quest for like Rajang and Magnamalo on the arena seems to be a real big push. So do expect more arena quests. I do know that the arena armor is missing some pieces, at least in high rank, so should be able to see at the very least a couple of more of those pieces being added into the sets now that you're going to be able to craft, because the arena quests are missing. We also know that event quests are missing. This doesn't mention event quests specifically, but we're hoping that event quests do get added going forward. But definitely going to be able to see a lot more quests added into the game with this big 2.0 update. Now the next two things that I'm going to touch upon are really interesting. One of them is harder rampages. Now it's not like rampages are necessarily tough to begin with, but making them a little bit tougher is definitely going to be good, especially if it means getting better rewards, especially more tickets. And more tickets means more crafting for, you know, cycling through your charms. So hopefully, you know, with alongside the fact that the charm tables are going to get fixed allegedly, we talked about that in the previous video, so hopefully that does mean that we get more tickets, and more tickets mean more charm cycles through if we decide to do roly-polies and stuff like that. So definitely looking forward to tougher rampage quests, because they are kind of boring at this point. They're not necessarily tough, and they're a bit of a grind to just kind of go through. It's just 10 to 15 minutes of just a slog to be able to just kill the monster and move on, and then just get the tickets and then do it all over again. It's a pain. But what really did surprise me, and I wasn't expecting this at this point in time, was that the leak specifically mentions the ability to hunt Apex monsters as a regular quest. Now this is like super surprising. I wasn't expecting this one right away. I did expect them to add this perhaps later in like 3.0, 4.0, but for them to do it right away, it's like they're realizing that Rampage monsters perhaps shouldn't be tied to just Rampages altogether. Now lore wise, it doesn't make any sense. Like Rampage monsters are specifically tied to Rampage for a very specific reason. But now they're perhaps realizing, like, contextualizing it doesn't really matter if they're just going to give you a chance to just take on a quest and just go kill that Apex Mitsuzune because for whatever reason you want to hunt that. Now, are they going to change the rewards for it? Perhaps they could, because you're not going to be able to get tickets for those. I would imagine it just doesn't make sense. So you're just hunting a normal Mitsuzune with like a different table of drops. I don't even actually know if they have different drop tables. So, and I don't think they do, because their parts are the same. So I don't know how that's going to work out. Maybe they're actually going to introduce Apex armors finally. That would be something great, but it doesn't mention that here. I'm just speculating, but maybe this does perhaps open the door finally, so Apex monsters do have their own armors going forward, and giving us a chance to be able to hunt them regularly would open up that possibility. The last thing that the leak specifically mentioned says more DLC, and specifically when they're talking about DLC armors, but they're talking about cosmetic armors. So it's not like you're gonna have more armor sets to craft based on the drops that you already are getting or from some of these quests, which could potentially be a possibility, but they're specifically talking about cosmetic armor that you buy. So not necessarily anything that's like too exciting unless you're willing to pay money for. And we do know that the DLC that they put out, even the paid DLC, wasn't necessarily all that great. So they are opening the possibilities of layered armor to being a bigger thing if you are willing to pay. Now, we do know that a lot of the armor sets that people are making, specifically the mixed armor sets, are not that great looking. So they definitely want to capitalize that and sell you some armor sets so you pay a little bit extra. So that's understandable. We knew that was going to be part of their business model going forward, but it's kind of a shame that they're already relying on that and not giving us perhaps all that many new armor sets to craft with the stuff that you actually get in game. They do mention that there's no quest stuff whatsoever. So if you were expecting anything along the lines of a Narwhal or Mother Quest edition or new quest content or anything like that, the leak doesn't mention that at all. In fact, they say no story stuff whatsoever, which is again something that we knew going into the big 3.0 update that they are going to put out, which I presume is still in line for June or July. I don't know if that's going to change. But yeah, no story stuff, so sorry if you're actually looking for the completion of the story, because that's not happening anytime soon. But that's going to be it for this video. It's interesting to actually see some information finally come out. We are going to be covering the big event tomorrow morning, so I just wanted to get this out there. Some of the people who are definitely always into the leaks are always hitting me up on Twitter like, hey, when are you going to do another leak video? It's like, well, if I didn't necessarily have people out for my head all the time whenever I make a leak video, I'd be more than happy to make more of them. But for now, this is all what we have, so let's just look forward to the event. And if this all turns out to be true, which I expect it to be because these people are reliable, then we do have at least 5 new things to hunt and a couple of new outside of the Rampage quest that we are going to be able to take advantage of. So that's pretty cool. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.